Welcome to Bubbling Up with your hosts Joe Sori and Steve Hermosi. We're going to be talking comics and comic-related stuff, and you're going to listen to us talk comics and comic-related stuff. Look, this is how podcasts work. I don't make the rules, okay? Anyway, you're gonna love us like Rob Liefeld loves pouches. Here we go.
Hello, comic crushers, and welcome to Bubbling Up, an adult conversation about the wide world of comics. I'm your evil foil of Superman, Joe Soria, along with the true seed collector, Steve Hermosi.
How you doing?
On today's show, we will be covering Steve-O's latest pick, the 2020 grungy alien apocalypse story, The Seeds. And we'll also then be finishing off Mr. Robert Kirkman's created Invincible animated series on Amazon. And then we might even throw in a little bit of Falcon and Winter Soldier, tie a bow on that. I'm sure we'll touch on plenty other curios of the comic worlds. So what's going on, Steve?
Oh, not much, man. I'm looking forward to this episode. Number 5, right?
Five alive.
Five alive. Johnny Five.
Johnny Five. Johnny Five. Okay. Here comes number 5. You all ready for it? So let's get started with some comic news, and I'll send you right back to Steve.
All right, just a couple things I wanted to mention today. I was reading this article about how Chloe Zhao is getting some really high praise about Eternals from some of the cast, especially this article mentioned Angelina Jolie, saying that she's a very special director. And I just feel like I've been seeing a lot of little things like this that are adding up to me being really excited for the Eternals. In fact, it's probably the thing, at least this year, that I'm most excited for in the Marvel Universe. So
I think that's it. Let's just reiterate, Chloe Zhao just won the Oscar for Best Director for the second female director to win that, the first Asian director, not Asian American. She does live in America now, but she's from China. And I think that's, quite an amazing choice that is very prescient on their front to have literally the Oscar winner also be releasing a Marvel movie. That must enter the year of it, not 20 years later, like a Kenneth Branagh or something directing a Thor movie, but right in there. I did not even see the trailer. I know there was little snippets that came out online actually this week too.
Just a little teaser. Yeah.
Little teaser, but I'm sure it was good. And I know that the joke was that Kevin Feige said he didn't know that green screen could look so good. And it's no, we filmed that. we filmed that in the real life. So that's why it wasn't. So it's sometimes real life is cooler than the spaceship. So
sounds like a Chloe Zhao answer to that, No, yeah. I'm not doing that on green screen.
No, and if someone's going to shoot a pasture, I know she did it in Nomadland. I love personally, The Rider was a personal favorite. I really enjoy that movie. It's quite an intimate movie. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I know one of the notes that I have for upcoming episode is to pick an Eternal comic, because I've never even heard of this before this. And before this movie, I'm guessing I'm not in the minority of being, I don't know what the F an Eternal is.
Neil Gaiman did a great run in the early 2000s, so check that one out.
That's what I saw, but that might be on the upcoming episode. So pin your ears back, folks.
Yeah. Keep listening for that. All right, so piece of news number 2. After 5 years on the Black Panther series, Ta-Nehisi Coates is hanging it up. I read a little bit of the run. Everything that I read was great, but John Ridley is actually taken over. He's the writer of 12 Years a Slave, and I think he did a bunch of stuff in England or some British stuff as well. So he's taken over to write that series. I want to finish up the Coates run, and then looking forward to seeing what they do next on that one. But
that's been on my list for a while too. I read the first few issues individually, and I think something I tailed off, but I'm definitely down to give that a revisit as well. So I'm sure it's on the high list and probably worth some time, especially if he's closing out a run. I think some of our future ideas are, when things close out, to kind of catch up and make sure we kind of line up with that. So sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the final thing that I have for you guys is just an interesting piece of miscellany that I stumbled across. There's a planned Hulk arc that was originally begun in 1984 that's just seeing print now. Doesn't look like a Hulk book, really, but looks interesting. Book's called Monsters, written by Barry Windsor Smith and published by Fantagraphics. Going to be released actually today this day of recording. It's May 5th. So if you're listening to this, it's out. Go check it out. It's going to be quite expensive at $80, but the copy on it reads, created over a period of 35 years. Monsters is a tour de force of visual storytelling, part family drama, part espionage thriller, part metaphysical journey. It's an intimate portrait of individuals struggling to reclaim their lives in an epic political odyssey across 2 generations of American history. And I did see some of the art in it, and it looks awesome. So if you have the extra $80 to drop on a comic, go nuts on that one and check it out. But so that's all the news that I have. But we'll put links up for all this stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, I think based on one of our end of episode recommendations, I would definitely be interested in this. So I'll save that as a little teaser. So, I think we're all done with the news for now. So let's take a quick break and we'll be back to discuss Ann Nocenti and David Aja's The Seeds. And we're back and we're going to discuss Steve's recent pick, or newest pick, The Seeds. I can do the rundown. I've got the publisher is Dark Horse Berger Book imprint, writer Ann Nocenti. David Aja is the artist and editor, Karen Berger, and Steve-O has this written down that she was one of the catalysts for Vertigo, so that's why we're giving her a shout-out. So as we've spoken about Vertigo every episode, and I guess this being, that's what you just said. You said it's Cinco de Mayo, and I was thinking it's 5/5, and we're episode 5. That's like super, super karma. I didn't even put the math together.
All the
It's been a karma day for me. I'm going to give you a little taste of something. You'll like this. I'll be give it quick. So I had a meeting yesterday and I put a question in, and it was a question to start everyone chatting. And I like to have a nice question that also makes sure everyone's mic works, and stuff like that. So I said, what is your favorite dessert? And also it's May the 4th, so favorite Star Wars character. And everyone gave it answers. I said, I was thinking specifically of this one dessert I only had once in my entire life. It was a baklava ice cream. It was at a Mediterranean restaurant in Maine. And so I was so excited, and I just started getting hungry thinking about it. On my way back last night, I ordered something online at this new place that makes ice cream sandwiches. I ordered a great cookie sandwich with pistachio in it. I get there. I've never been there before. I'm very, very excited. They're like, we don't have pistachio ice cream. And then they walk me to the back. What do they have? Baklava ice cream.
Delightful.
How was it? It was delightful. It's so big. It's like this big. And I know I'm doing hands-on video, and I know this is totally off topic, but I just want to get in a good mood because I feel like The Seeds is the opposite of a good mood. And so I'm trying to build up a little energy here before we have this. I doubled down here. I doubled downered on this episode, I think. So I'm feeling that energy of just half of that ice cream sandwich from last night. Top half was a peanut butter cookie. Bottom half was snickerdoodle covered in brownie crumbs.
My God.
And it's delicious. So when you come on up north, Steve, I will take you to Stack. I believe it's called Stack Creamery. So
sounds good.
So tell us about The Seeds and David and Nocenti Ann and David's creation.
Yeah, so this is just a dark, slightly pre-apocalypse book, I guess. It's kind of the waning days of humanity, it seems like. And just to accent that, there are some aliens that show up to collect the seeds, almost like they're filling their own apocalypse vault, like we've got here on Earth.
When the aliens are here, it's almost the next step is apocalypse. I assume we've only had one or two of the aliens. It's good things are happening here. Maybe the rest of them, it's coming.
I like the fact that in this one though, they're not really. It's not they're just here to kind of catalog humanity before we're out of here of our own doing. Well,
are they trying to catalog it, or aren't they trying to make money? Is that the whole point? Because they're killing it, so they're actually just mining it in essence, right?
Yeah, they're getting what they can, but it's not worth anything unless humans are dead. Yeah,
that's very strange because today actually I tried to sell some Atari games and some Wii games today, so I got some hot bites on that, and those are dead systems too. So
well, there you go. It works out perfectly.
All right. So what are our characters here on Seeds Island or Seeds World or whatever it's called? There's no place, I believe, dictated in it at all. It's just grimy city number 2. Right?
Yeah. No, it's some grimy ass city separated from the grimy ass desert by a wall. But you've got your You've got Astra, who's, I guess, kind of the main driving character of this. She's a journalist trying to do a story about the wall and like what's on the other side and all this stuff. You've got Gabrielle, her editor. You've got Lola and Race, who are having Race is one of the aliens who's come to Earth. Lola is a woman with some sort of handicap who doesn't have the use of her, or has limited use of her legs, so she's gets around in a wheelchair, but ends up going outside the wall where there's no like technology or anything, and kind of has to get along out there with Race, her alien lover. You've got Nutwad. You've got the aliens who are made of, other than Race, Nutwad, 13, and Sandy. Just a whole weird bag of names there. Nutwad is, I guess, the important one. He's just kind of the dickhead boss of the crew.
Is he the one that's naked with his nuts out? Isn't that the whole point? Or right? Okay.
Yeah.
So that is history. I was trying to figure out who was who when they were doing those scenes. Otherwise, I don't want to like step on my own moves, but I didn't get the aliens. They were all they all had hoods and like the gas masks. And
the gas masks, yeah. Except for 13 had like the bandages instead of the gas masks.
Oh yes, that's right. So just the two with the gas masks. Okay, yeah. So I still, yeah. All right.
And then there was these other four characters who are kind of just like mouthpieces for interesting philosophical discussions about the end of the world. There's Alice and Buddy, who are these two, like, I guess, technician or like something. They're down in a tunnel talking about, like, one's talking about how his tech's, or one's talking about how her tech's going to save the world, and one's talking about how his like mushrooms are going to save the world. And then there's Jack and Susan, who live on a farm outside the wall and kind of bounce off of the story in a kind of secondary way. But they have their own like kind of philosophical discussion about like, there's a quote where Jack says, what does he say? He says something like, I'd rather live and get eaten than not live at all. And like they have the whole discussion of like life and death. And then meanwhile, Alice and Buddy are having this discussion of like technology versus nature and things like that. So I think that it's interesting. I think that they have a lot of, this book throws a lot of stuff at the wall, which is kind of up my alley. I know we're going to talk about a little bit of your take on this stuff in a little bit, but I enjoyed this book for just throwing a bunch of philosophy and sociology problems without actually having necessarily an answer for any of them. It's just kind of like, how do you live in a place where everything is like, well, your whole life is a question, like, what are you going to do tomorrow? Like stuff like that.
Right.
So that's kind of what I like about this. And I've read a couple reviews on this that it's like, this just throws a whole bunch of shit at the wall and like has nothing to say about it. And I'm like, I don't know if it has nothing to say about it. It definitely throws a lot of shit at the wall.
I think it has a point of view, but it doesn't have anything. I don't want to say nothing new or something slightly different take, but there's derivation here. I don't think.
Oh, sure.
Like this is not a pure creative act, probably. That's all.
Sure. I would argue that almost nothing can be at this point. But like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like you can definitely see like kind of the references in here and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can take it for a second. I think. Well, number one, I think the key driver here is the visuals, but I think we'll save that for secondarily. To me, it had the vibes of a lot of things that I love, but not the execution of what I love, I think is what I would say. It felt more like Johnny Mnemonic than like Dark City or Blade Runner-y or Escape from New York or Alita Battle Angel, even the comic, not the movie. It felt like the movie, not the comic, so, and not that I've read a ton of that, but there's just like, there's no cyborgs in this, but basically there might as well have been. They're just aliens instead of cyborgs, sub it in. I don't think it was raining the whole time, but it was raining the whole time in my world. So, and no food, and the low tech zone scenario, which maybe I missed if you mentioned that part, but to me that part was specifically like Johnny Mnemonic. And then it was called The Zone, which is the name of the zone in like the Stalker movie, like the Stalker, the movie. So to me, it's like a lot of references to a bunch of stuff. And the big takeaway here, I think the most creative acts were like creating people that are addicted to seeing aliens, like fake aliens anonymous. I thought that was a cute little, like to me, it was the tweaks that I like the reporter scenes. I like the romance scenes. And I thought those were the best. Mm-hmm. And all of the explainer and information, like when I'm blanking on the word that, but the boring part was really boring and kind of purposely shaded and like opaque, but not in a good way. It was just like, I don't really have an answer to this, so I'm just going to make like it be like little snippets of buzzwords across like 8 different pages and put it in someone's mind. So I think that's my issue there. But like I said, yeah, I really like that Alien. The Alien, those 2 Alien portions and those the romance parts were the best part, but they're also the most intimate. I think the individual smaller scenes that weren't on the grand scale were the most important and the best. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I would agree with that. I think that is the heart of this. And like, I know that when Ann Nocenti was writing this, for sure, like she wanted to have cut each of her 4 issues into 4 parts. And, have each of those parts deal with 1/4 of the people that are involved in this. It's just that, and then, they all kind of come together. But like, it's for sure the people, the farmers outside the wall. And then I don't even know where Alice and Buddy are supposed to be. Like, I guess down in the,
No, they're in that green biotech place. That's the tattoo. You see it. I don't want to super spoil, but like the tattoo at the end. So I believe they're the ones making like these seeds or the super seeds or whatever's going on in that like plant that they keep showing that's killing the bees, I think.
Yeah, I know they were trying to make the mechanical, replace the bees with, bee bots and whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, that or like kind of like the anti-GMO type like evil corporation, like trying to make the super seeds but destroying the real, like, just it's kind of what the aliens are doing. They're destroying the world so that they can sell the seed somewhere else. So Monsanto or whoever else, I don't know what they're called these days, but the people making those super seeds, that's the reason it's called is the seeds, right? I mean, so not to get
yes. But well, I mean, the aliens aren't necessarily like trying to interfere with human life. They're not actively killing anyone. They're just that they have heard, right? I think that's the point. Like, they've heard that this is supposed to be the end for humanity, or they figure like, so they have a line that, the seeds of Earth are going to be important soon. So they go and collect whatever.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure if we're supposed to think they're the only ones there. I guess it wasn't. And again, it wasn't clear. Like there's a reporter, there's these things, there's a lot of non-clarity here, and that is supposed to. Some people think that is like cool in like late 90s, mid 90s indie cinema, and like, but that really pissed most people off, where it had no ending or no reasoning. People want reasons, so I don't want to say that you have to have one, but if you're not going to have one, you have to really come heavy, I think, the other way. And I think it kind of didn't have a pure reason, and also didn't have like the vibe, I think, kind of petered off. It started strong, and then I don't think it stuck with me the whole time. Yeah.
Didn't go hard enough on like the surreality of the whole thing, you think?
It's like it became very personal, but also felt like it was kind of somehow wasn't rushed. It was actually, it felt like it was almost too many issues for what it was. Like, it almost seemed like 2 issues instead of 4 issues. Like there was something not making a ton of sense. Like the crossing the border you thought would be a bigger deal, and it just kind of something. And then she's handicapped, but I don't get what they just kind of like tossed that off. Right, she's in a wheelchair the whole thing, but it just seems to be like we're supposed to make it like not a thing, maybe, or that's the point. But she's going to the other side of with no electronics, with a like electric wheelchair, or is it electric? I
don't think it was electric, but
there was something. There's just that part, and they had some ideas about like the no technology zone and like the loss and like the problems, and they just didn't really address them at all. They just said they were there, and I thought they were cool ideas that didn't get basically just didn't get executed in the story, so we could hear the aliens talk to each other, which it wasn't that entertaining. Or the biologists talk to each other. So why don't we shift to the art, which I think we're both a fan of personally, and I want to lead on this one. So David Aja, I'm not a big I don't know how much he's done. I looked up like on the local like library level, and I only saw 3 things, and I had read all of them. So I know him mostly from Hawkeye, the big Matt Fraction Hawkeye series that I think they're doing into the new Hawkeye TV series, which is like about Hawkeye and a young girl taking over his job. Basically, it has this kind of like 50s, 60s, but also feeling modern, like color palette, black and white, noir. I called like a hard inking almost, where it's like it's very dark in the ink sections, and then like very light and like shaded in the non. So it's very effective. It's not colorful. They're very muted colors for the most part. So the black with the muted colors, and it gives this like end of the world fogginess of everything that's what sucked me in from the beginning. And I think, I don't know if it's on the first page, but it's on a lot of them, is those, the bee stuff. I was like, I'm getting tired of this, but I also love watching him draw it, so I'm okay with it. Like, there's like the development of like the 3 zoom outs from the bee where it's like little, and then they made those. I love that the fence was the same size as the bee hive pattern, and that's the place they were going, or that's where the factory was, they kept showing. So I'm pretty sure that's the whole connective tissue that I might have just stumbled upon now in my mind that I probably didn't get when I was reading it. But I kind of stopped reading sometimes the dialogue because I was looking at the art so much, and I was just enjoying it so much. So, I mean, those are the big things for me. And I know you had a note here on the grids, but I'll leave that one for you, Bo. So what did you think of David Aja's art?
Yeah, I like you said, I absolutely loved it. I know that the only thing that I had ever seen from him earlier was Hawkeye, and I'm sure he's got like other projects, but
he did a Immortal Fist also with Fraction and Brubaker that I read one book of that's really, really good. I'm actually in the middle. After this, I immediately got the second one, so I am now reading book 2 of that series because those are my Brubaker with this combined. It's like, well, Brubaker with anybody, but especially this, like, he has a different style for him, but a great different style for him. So and Phillips or one of the other guys that he works with a lot.
I would really love to see him start doing some more creator-owned stuff because his art is awesome. Very, very atmospheric, like you said. This like washed like it. So the interesting thing is you look at this and you immediately your brain tells you it's black and white, but it's really there's color in this. It's like green scale. The color of the art is like green, and it's just this like really washed out. Like grayish green almost, like just this really light, dirty green. And it's such a fucking cool thing. There's, I wanted to mention that the shading is all done in like this dot pattern that is reminiscent of like old comics, like comics from the 50s and stuff that got printed in newspapers.
Pointillist, almost like Roy Lichtenstein, basically, with like the pointing colors. Although that's the pointing of the whole thing, but
just a very cool thing. And then we mentioned this on I recently edited the Sheriff of Babylon episode that we did, I think episode 3, and we mentioned this same thing. But this makes like pretty heavy use of the 9 panel, which is probably more of the writer's decision than the artist's, but makes very heavy use of like the 9 panel grids. And you don't see a ton of that in like superhero comics and things like that. But in more independent stuff, you do have these because they provide like a way to kind of show these little moments over and like progressing over a fairly short period of time. And I think that a lot of what, especially like you were saying, where this book really is good is like the small intimate moments, between Astra or Lola and Race and like, just there's some of the smaller moments are better than the bigger sweeping moments, as you're mentioning. So that kind of grid like really is good for that type of detail oriented moment to moment kind of art. And
that structure makes it intimate. I think that's why I think that it adds to it, honestly, because it's a stricture of a structure too. It like keep things small. It's very easy. Well, I mean, when you're with comics, with superheroes, to make like some kind of crazy splashy page where like everyone's jumping in and out and fighting, there isn't as much actual action here. So you can kind of tell this just like you'd write a novel, and you said that the part where it's like four sections exactly. This is like 4 sections of 4 sections. Like everything is neat and clean, and I think he does a good job here, and it gives it clean lines, which is I think also the aesthetic generally of all of the inking and the penciling in general. It's very detailed, but it doesn't look hyper realistic detail. It's detailed in being a human or a character drawn in this style specifically. And I really did appreciate that. So sorry, you grabbing something?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just grabbing my copy because I wanted to look at something.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I was thinking of the guy, the style actually was of Brack's dad, like in the Brack show.
Yeah.
Like the little dad, like the style where like very hard lines, like kind of you have Superman behind you, but that's not detailed enough on the face.
Right.
The face, the body and face, the detail are there, but the lines are really, really, really good. So
Joe's referring to, by the way, every episode I put up a stupid comic panel behind me, so it's just Superman saying, "Jimmy, what's up?"
So it's just for me, I guess, because no one else is seeing it.
It's just for you, man.
It's just for me.
Just do this for
fun.
Love
things we're not even recording. Don't worry. So the one note I think I put here that I skipped to, but it's similar, was just like it kind of gave a Batman vibe, that like of the darkest dark, like the Dark Knight, almost I know the White Knight, where it's all black and white and there's very little color, but the color is there. It's just like, it seems like the color of the world is being sucked out, and it's very representational. It's actually very well done. And one of the best reasons to kind of look at the book, it has those kind of intro pages and the figures and, the standard stylings, but it's still really, really, really well done.
Yeah, I agree. The art is, I like this story. Sounds like more than you do, but the art is really the standout on it. The art looks incredible. There is like that. You're right. It is a very like heavy like noir comics influence, and you have like these faces that when they're far from you, they're
fuzzy.
There's almost no detail in them. They're just almost an outline of a face. But when you get the close-ups of people, you really see their emotions, and you see that with kind of like a minimum of lines. It's not like super detailed in that there's a lot of ink on making the lines of the face and all that stuff. It's just like the emotions are very obvious with whatever is on there. And
yeah, I think there's very little body detail in general, except for her, like the tattoos that you see and some other things. Generally, like the outline of their actual bodies all are covered up, whether it's heavy clothes or like almost like a rainy Seattle type vibe of like, so there's you expect most comics, some kind of boobs are popping out or something, they know their readers a lot of times. And obviously this is a female written, and that's a joke. I don't need comic boobs anywhere. Believe me, I'm all good. But, it is funny that this movie, it's like, and we didn't even really touch on it, but the main characters here are two ladies and an alien. There are really no male important characters in this movie, in this comic. So it is a non-male driven, like, I guess you'd say the alien is a male, but, or is, if they're planting seeds.
Well,
I think
if you remember, there's a scene where it's like, Lola says, "Oh, you got both parts," and Ray says like, "When I need to."
All right, so I did miss that. So there you go. Interesting, but so I guess maybe I got to give it a review for the reread for the story itself. But do you have any other comments? I mean, we can pretty much end it off here. So I mean, for me, we're not doing a pure scale, but I would say on a recommendation level, like the story here to me is like out of a scale of 1 to 10 would be a 5. The art is an 8, and you get overall like 6.5. So it's like a 2.5. It's like, it's right there. It's not a pure recommendation, but if you're into the art and the style, I think it's interesting. I always like to try to give people that they might have a better vibe for it. I think we might discuss some better versions of these apocalyptic type. There are annoying apocalyptic stories, like maybe Walking Dead. There are ones that are finishing maybe in the right time, like Gideon Falls. There are ones that are, all over the place. We can keep naming, but this seems to be a popular bent. And I did, see in my, I think it was the Wikipedia notes, or it was in the. Did you read the big volume, or you read the individual issues?
The big volume. Yeah.
So there was a little letter she wrote at the end. So this is one other thing I did notice, that they mentioned that they've been trying to get this done for like 8 years. And then they kind of just changed it to apocalyptic, and then it got done. So to me, that part also means something wasn't working with this. And so I don't know how you're working on 4 issues for 8 years, or maybe just keep coming back to it. I mean, I'm sure she's doing other things with her life.
I think it was, she pitched the idea and they were like, nah, not interested. And then it became something slightly different, and then as Karen Berger said, "Hey, come on in." But
this has a Vertigo vibe for sure. So on that front, so what any recommendation or thought? I mean, you recommended it to me. So what's your final say on your recommendation pick.
Yeah, I mean, I like this book. I'll probably recommend it to people. I think it's just interesting in terms of like throwing a bunch of questions at the wall. Like, like it's not going to stick for everybody. I completely see where you're coming from, and I get that. I'm not trying to convince people to like this book. I just think that I like books like this that kind of ask their readers questions. That's why a lot of superhero books don't do it for me all the time, because I watch TV for that stuff, and I read to try and like find something weird or like something different. I guess.
You're a deep reader, but a skim watcher?
Yeah, exactly. I'm watching the fucking Flash on CW, so that tells you all you need to know about my TV watching. But,
let's transition. We're going to transition to something that might be skimmable in this world. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to cover the great Robert Kirkman and his adaptation of Invincible. All right. So we're back. And like I said, we're going to discuss, I don't even want to say its name. I'm thinking like just a big whoosh, whoosh, blood splattering all over the place.
We're going to go to the title card.
Yeah, the title card, like the audio title card is coming with no words. It's just whoosh and, all the colors, more blood. So we're going to talk Invincible. So, I'll let Steve-O start this one again, since he seems to have a little more bearing and experience with Mr. Kirkman than myself.
Well, my experience with Kirkman stuff, and like, I don't know, I feel bad about this. I want to like his stuff, but I find it to be not so great all the time. And like, oftentimes on the moving to the screen, so like I felt the same kind of way about The Walking Dead.
The adaptation.
Has a stronger start than an end. So like season 1, I kind of felt the same way of Walking Dead as I feel about Invincible. There's like this big moment at the beginning of
we're going full spoilers here. So
full spoilers.
Yeah, going full spoilers. This is a full season. We're going full spoilers.
Don't
messing around.
Don't listen to us unless you have seen Invincible,
or you don't want to see it and you want to hear us say things about it. And
that's the other one,
because you probably could see the whole series in about 10 minutes of us talking about it. So.
I have been trying to put chapters on these episodes, so you should be able to just skip right up past it if you want to. Right. But anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah,
you were dancing around the ending of the first episode.
There's this, and at the end of the first episode, there's this big moment in the show, and it's never really, the whole rest of the season, it's never really topped, which is, I feel like, should be a no-no in terms of the way that your season goes. I feel like it spends the rest of the season trying to build back up to that, strength, and it just never quite gets there. The other thing is, like, it builds a lot of these interesting characters that go fucking nowhere, which, we'll talk about later.
For 10 hours, I just want to let's make a note out here. This is 10 one-hour episodes, basically, that nothing happens in. Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot happens. He gets his fucking ass kicked the entire time.
I don't think that's something happening. I'm pretty sure that's just literally fights. Like, if someone goes in a bar and has different
constantly
fights,
just goes
having bar fights. I don't need to know any more details.
Yeah, constantly going into the hospital and coming out of the hospital.
How is he invincible? Is that the joke as well? Like, I don't get any of it. Isn't he like the god? Like, how are they bleeding? I don't understand any of this stuff. Someone's gonna have to. Really
they're just alien. They're not gods, but like I think that is supposed to be a joke that he calls himself invincible and then just proceeds to get his fucking ass.
By far, the best episode is when he gets the shit kicked out of him by that and the lion main, Greek god of lions character. And they showed him at the end. I'm like, can we just get a series about that guy? That guy seems cool. I'd watch that series.
Yeah. I like the only thing good about that is I hope like a lot of these characters come back later and are, important. But
I mean, that was the silliest thing. I mean, that at the end there, they showed you where all the characters are at, and you're like, none of these characters did anything. They had one episode of boring crap. Like, why are you showing us where the guy that you basically ended the episode, he's up in the room where he's been since the last episode? Like, I don't need 15 recaps. These aren't all individual characters. I don't know. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. And the other thing is that always bugs me about Kirkman stuff, and it always transfers over to his TV stuff, is that the dialogue in them is terrible.
And with so many, like, oh my God, with so many great voice actors, I wanted such, like, imagine if you had really good dialogue in this with all these amazing voice actors, you know?
Or less dialogue, and cut each episode and make it 35 minutes. I don't know how many times he repeated what he's like doing it for the people or doing it for somebody. And it's like, yeah, you're superheroes. You're doing it for somebody. Cool. Are there others? I didn't understand. Are these the only 5 superheroes left? I guess that they were saying at the end.
I think there's other like teams that are below them.
It doesn't seem like it. There's nobody else.
Teams.
There's nobody else. So at the end, there's nobody else. The dialogue here is choppy at best, and I think I know I had wrote in my notes somewhere, but it is the only time I've ever wanted to hear J.K. Simmons stop talking in my entire life. I love when he talks. I love everything he's done. You know, in essence,
farmers commercials.
Yeah, no, give me he's an M&M. He knows how to make money. He's good. He's the yellow M&M too. This guy, he's good. He's done voiceover work. He's done he does the voice of all kinds. You know, he's a great actor as well. He's an excellent. You know, all kinds. I've seen him in Counterpart. He's been in Coen Brothers movies. He's been in Law and Order. 15 years of Law and Order stuff. You know, so he's just done the whole spectrum. He's the ultimate working actor.
Somebody did the meme of him. So extra spoiler, I guess, whatever. In the last episode, him and his son, you know, Invincible, get into a fight, and somebody did a meme of him from Whiplash.
Whiplash, like, Miles Teller.
Were you early or what is it? Are you early or were you late or whatever the fuck he says in that? So.
I mean, it makes sense, and like that's the character that you would get this from. He is always kind of like half bad guy or half good guy. He does a good job of that. I mean, he's great. But I feel like they spent a lot of time you caring about these characters, and then they just shat on them, and not in a fun or interesting way. Like the wife, like you leave her shattered, like that's the end of the season. That's fucking awful. Like, okay, we're gonna spend the next season of her being sad after she's been like chasing around the problem the whole time. The relationship between her son and the girl who knows that she's a superhero but doesn't give him a break. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's the lamest thing I've ever heard. Like, you know, it's like, you didn't tell me. Oh, fuck this shit with the didn't tell me. There's we give you the same answer that superheroes have been giving since the beginning of time. It's for your own good. Just take it. He's a superhero, you know. And I just
Beats played like everybody's a great.
She's fine, but she has terrible dialogue. I mean, you know, she's in Atlanta. She's in one of the best written shows in the world, and then she's in one of the worst dialogue written shows that I've heard in a long time, that I've watched all the way to the end. I mean, a lot of times I quit on these shows, and I kind of wanted to see what happened here, and I was like, oh, good, the fight that we knew was going to happen, that they're punching each other across the planet every punch, but how do you know when they actually get injured? I think if they hit something hard, or this guy punches hard and he punches all his teeth out. And
well, clearly you haven't watched Dragon Ball Z, right? Because it's the exact same thing.
No. And that's what I figured, that maybe this is, you know, I thought this was for me, where I'm like on the edges of that type of stuff. This is not for me. And maybe I've tried a bunch of these action shows. I've never made it through at all. I like old 90s cartoons are my apex. I've tried maybe like Clone Wars I've watched a little bit of and trying to get into, but Star Wars, different scenario, you know. But these, you know, give me Spider-Man, give me X-Men, give me, you know, Saturday morning cartoons. The blood doesn't do anything for me, and it's really kind of abrasive and boring, honestly. I think what ruins a lot of The Boys too. It's like overuse of blood, and I know there's this whole like, you know, Tarantinoization of you're making blood not matter, or that like it's just like an art, but it's just gross, I think. And it's like Mortal Kombat blood mode when you're like 12 years old. I'm not 12 years old anymore.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, I don't necessarily mind the blood, but yeah, I don't think it's like used in a interesting way or like anything like that. But it is. It's like the insane violence for insane violence' sake a lot of times, and whatever. That's fine. Some people like that shit. I can take it or leave it. Like, you know, I like Tarantino. I like when it's done.
But it's fun. This is not fun. There's no fun in this show at all. There's literally no fun. It's just like angry and bring in Walton Goggins, who somehow can just like show up everywhere but can't do anything. He's not an actual superhero, has no skills. It's just like
he can teleport, or he's got like teleporting technology,
and then somehow they just send all the cops there, and that stops the blue aliens of whatever. I mean, there's just like selective stoppage points that I think are just really kind of cheating. There's a lot of cheating, I feel like, going in the show somehow, where like it's just they're reviving people, they're doing all kinds of stuff that I know is comic book fodder, but you thought this was supposed to be real life, like, okay, and this is like real Peter Parker, and you're doing all the kind of things where it's like bloody Spider-Man, bloody Superman, right? Like really bloody. And maybe it's coming on the heels of The Boys, but that's like 30 bad guys, or it's like it is. I mentioned it before. I said Bloody Bugs Bunny, where it's just like he just keeps getting up and getting punched again, and you just have to hear these. I have good surround sound. I wanted to mute the show half the time. Honestly, I just didn't get it. So let's twist this a little bit, because we can keep pooping on this and whatever. I didn't read the comic. I think you said you did, or you didn't read the comic.
No,
so I don't know. So I know someone who is enjoying the comic supposedly, but I think if you enjoy the dialogue and comic and everything else, just like Walking Dead, you'll probably enjoy this. I'm not sure. So what about the animated side? Like, anything else? Because we did cover it a lot in the first episode. We're covering the blood conversation. I don't really like this kind of. I don't think this animation is attractive either, and it doesn't seem like modern. It doesn't seem to give it any other effect than just to kind of look like the '90s things that I like, but then spin them a different way. So what'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's been a lot of I don't think there have been anywhere near as many updates in comic animation. So like animated shows and movies for comics that there have been in movies. Let's say like live action. Let's say, or like.
Well, what if this was drawn by like David Aja or whatever, Aja, or like, how much cooler would this look like being in like a shadow style or anything? Like, just the style choice is almost when you buy like a pre-canned like animation of some sort and you just put words on top of it. It really, the colors are cool. There's some good pops and some good costumes, but everything else just doesn't do anything for me either.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing. Like, there's a lot of like really crazy shit going on in anime or like in Japan, but like this is kind of almost a like the American version of anime, where it's like got that. I think they're trying to give it like a little bit of a sheen of that like anime has, but there's no interesting there's not like super interesting art choices being made. Like there's not crazy stuff going on with the art. It's just like, all right, make this your standard look for, like you said, make it look like the mid 2000s Avengers TV show, and that's kind of what it looks like. And cool.
Well, I didn't watch that, I guess. And this is supposed to be like a high end something. I assume that like with all this voice talent, you thought like that's the point here. And I guess my thing is not liking this show. So I don't want to like keep super pooping on this. Is there any other notes or any other final thoughts on Invincible? I mean, other than I know you always just seem to want to watch more of these things, even after you're not liking it, or it's like you feel like you have to. I don't know. If someone I trust tells me something good happened in season 2, I may revisit, but I think I'll save the next 10 hours for the Decalogue or something. Something. I'll watch Shoah. The 10-hour Holocaust documentary from the 80s. 10 hours, so I can take that. Any other thoughts? Final thoughts before other than that, if you want, I was thinking we could just do a little Falcon and Winter Soldier kind of same idea. This is also spoilerific since you're already past the main spoilers, but we didn't cover the show at all. We kind of just did a preview of what we thought of some of the actors. So people know what this is, but I think we're just going to go straight takes here and not really go into the plot. We can talk about the plot, but not run down what the plot is. So, just like we did on the last one, we didn't really talk about what happened other than there's a fight at the end. I didn't know what was a plot for 5 episodes that we were covering. So, yeah, I mean, I forget. Didn't we talk a little bit about like the first 2 episodes or something? I don't think so. I think we did all WandaVision. Maybe did the preview and maybe I missed it. I've definitely talked about it, but maybe we did do it. I'm sorry if I don't remember the episodes we recorded a little while ago, but either way, it's almost unmemorable at this point. So what did you think of the back half of the series?
We definitely did. So we talked about the first 3 episodes because the first 3 we were saying like the third one is by far the most interesting, if I remember correctly, and I think that's where
is that the one where Elijah the Elijah Bradley when they meet
Isaiah Bradley,
Sorry, Elijah's the son.
Elijah is so I think his son's or his grandson's name is like Eli, but it's played by this guy Elijah. We had So anyway, we talked about that. That's where he came. That's where Isaiah comes in.
Carl Laemmle, the actor, I believe, give him a shout.
Yeah. And that's where Zemo comes in as well. So like the interesting things start to happen there, and then there's 3 more episodes after that. So I guess we'll talk about those like as the Flag Smashers get a little bit more interesting, and we kind of.
So were you interested in the Flag Smashers? Because I think that, like, I know that things have come out again that they had to edit out some kind of COVID plot line or some kind of like virus plot line, and things don't make sense. Like, to me, the Flag Smashers was similar to what we were talking about in Invincible, where it's just like lost. Same thing with like Seeds. It's like characters I don't really even like. I care about them as human beings, but I do not care. Like their representation was so useless. Like there was a lot of useless representation here, I think, outside of the characters we just mentioned with like Isaiah Bradley. Like that stuff was really good. The Anthony Mackie parts are really good. In the second half, the training sequences, he definitely picked up steam. Like I was not all in on Anthony Mackie in the beginning. I think we kind of poo-pooed these characters saying we didn't know anything about their history, or even like I personally didn't even remember a lot of this stuff. I had to go back and watch the movie. I got to reconnect to this. I still think it sputtered at the end again, which I think that's the point of these shows, because if they give you some crazy denouement, then they can't continue it. It won't lead into something else. And so it's just like, similarly how we just said with Invincible, there's 15 people shown that you're like, wait, if I know I saw these characters, but if I could tell you their names, I don't think, any of their names, I don't know. It's like, oh, here's John Russell or John Archer or John, whatever, the captain, the agent, Agent Zero,
U.S. Agent,
Agent Zero, Captain Agent America. I also think, go. Yeah.
I thought, that was interesting. Like that whole thing with him was interesting. I thought it could have been done better, but I thought that they kind of dropped the ball on that a little bit. Like they had such a strong thing that they could have worked off of when he, spoiler, kills somebody, and whatever. But and then the Flag Smashers, there's only one of them that anybody gives a damn about, but I thought she did a pretty good job. And their whole, like, if they had been more focused with their whole message like throughout, I think that would have been more interesting, because it isn't like it was like speaking to kind of immigrants and like, where do you go when people tell you that there's no place for you and all this stuff. And I think that they could have been more strong with that. I think that the whole thing with Isaiah was really strong every time that they had things with him. And I really liked seeing where they went with that. There's a scene in the last episode that's like really Anthony Mackie's character, like turning to the camera and being like, here's the point of this series. And I was like, oh my God, man.
Yeah, man.
That was a little bit much, but like other than that, I thought it was. I thought that the back half was stronger than the first 3 episodes, and yeah, I thought it did a good job.
Well, I think Sebastian Stan, was understated but good, and it gave a good counterpoint of the over the top kind of professing that the Falcon stuff was, or the Captain eventually. I think I don't know the costumes and the history, but that costume is god awful. I appreciated that the fighting got a little bit better, but I still think it was kind of useless, and similar like Invincible. I blanked it out, and the best part was Baron Zemo, who you mentioned, and I could probably talk a while on that. I love Daniel Bruhl. I love Inglourious Basterds. I love him in Rush. I love him in all kinds of things. So I would watch that show. I know there's talks that there's the Suicide Squad of C-level bad guys or whatever, some kind of character arc that is available that he's involved with. I'm in. That Turkish delight scene is probably one of the most delightful scenes of the entire series. The small things, even the having tea moment, that's kind of the same. Mm-hmm. That whole thing was so much fun. The rest of this show was not much fun. Again, like Invincible, and I know that it's all serious and this is real, but I wish there could be some more Ragnarok and some less Dark Fates. I don't know, feeling.
I don't know. I thought that there were some pretty good light moments, especially between the Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan's characters, and
it was banter though. It wasn't action. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't light moments. There were still oh, the boat is sinking, we have to fix it, let's have fun, or have a bake out, a fix out. There's still problems here. It was realistic, so I'll give them that, to the energy and their earned problems, but it still feels like between this and then WandaVision, I'm hoping, we'll get into Loki in a second, I think, but I'm hoping there's a little more of a smirk in one of these series, hopefully at some point, because this is now 10 plus hours of feeling like I'm getting lessons on all these characters and like their mental and all the problems we've done and all the problems we've had. And it's like, there should be something in here. I don't know.
Well, I think if nothing else, yeah, for sure. If Loki's going to be that, like, isn't the entire point of Loki. If you don't do Loki with a smirk, like a show about Loki with a smirk, then you're doing something wrong, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw there, and I've read some of the Loki, I forgot who wrote it, but I want to say it's not Al Ewing, but I read the first trade of that, and it's very interesting. There's like these alternate Lokis, and I think that's what it's going to be about, from what I've been told or from what I've been reading. I try not to overread into this stuff and get spoiled and get excited in advance. Like, I thought that WandaVision was going to be the Visions, and I was really excited, and then it was kind of, but not really. So, all right, any last takes? Let's shut it down on Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
but anything else you want to leave it off on? Well, good. We've said it all. All right, so thanks for hanging with us while we just pooped on Invincible and gave probably, I'd say, a middling recommendation for Falcon Winter Soldier to be. It's about as watchable as one of the middle Marvel movies that you could skip if you want. This is an Age of Ultron plus or whatever. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to give you a few hot takes on the upcoming calendar of comic adaptations. And we're back. So we're going to talk on the upcoming comics and movies and shows and Netflix and Hulu's and etc. calendar. And Steve's going to run down a little bit of May and June for you. Yeah,
so I've got 3 things coming up in the end of May and June, which, depending on when this gets released, this might have already started by now. But we've got at the end of May 21st on Hulu, one I've been looking forward to for a while. And I think they just released I think they just said the date recently, but MODOK coming out on Hulu. That's Patton Oswalt's like show running this. And it's looking, I'm hopeful that's going to be really good. So
pretty exciting then, I guess. Yes.
One for you, Joe, coming up like the 2 weeks later, June 4th.
It's like 5 for me. This is like triple hot zone, everything, all the writers. This is why we started this podcast. In essence, this is one of them. So
they better not fuck this up because Joe will just quit the podcast. But Sweet Tooth coming out on Netflix on June 4th.
I hope it's better than Lock and Key. I hope I can get back and watch the rest of Lock and Key. We'll get into this on an upcoming episode. I will not take over here and diverge us heavily.
I think I want to try and read through Sweet Tooth before then. So I've got like a month.
So maybe we gotta rejigger it up. I thought if we could schedule these up the right way, and we're gonna lean into that, then I would do a full Sweet Tooth episode. Right. I had posited maybe a Jeff Lemire overall episode. It's a Jeff Lemire comic, and Jeff Lemire is basically 60% of my reading diet probably from the last 3 years. So the man does not stop writing, and most of it is not bad. So,
I was going to say, I think he writes 60% of the comics that come out. So yeah, that makes sense.
He might be a robot.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one is one, I think we've mentioned this already, but deserves another mention. Loki is coming out on Disney Plus on June 9th. And that's going to be coming out on Wednesdays instead of Fridays. So a little change of schedule for the Disney Plus shows, at least that one. I kind of like that.
Do you know how many episodes that is?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
we should get the episode counts on here because that's always helpful for me. I'm like, if I see Sweet Tooth and it's 26 episodes, which it's not going to be, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be 8 or 10 because it's probably COVID related. It's probably filmed in Canada because he's Canadian, and it's we didn't even mention, but Sweet Tooth, if you don't know, is about a young boy who's half deer, I guess, or half some kind of animal with antlers in it, and it's like these hybrid animals, like apocalypse. Go back to Apocalyptic Zone, but if anyone hits the Apocalyptic Zone harder than Jeff Lemire or Jeff Lemire, I don't even know how to say his name, then they are very busy, and they've written a lot of things about the end of the world.
So MODOK, 10 episodes. Sweet Tooth is 8 episodes.
Okay. Loki's, I'm guessing.
Sweet Tooth is a Hulu show? I thought it was Netflix.
It's Netflix.
That's why is it coming up as Hulu on here?
It was originally produced, I think, by or attempted
That's
to be
right.
produced
It got
by
moved
Hulu,
to Netflix from Hulu.
That's
right. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there.
It's been in long production. This is I know from I do a lot of research here.
I don't have a episode count on Loki yet. I'm not sure if they've released it yet, but
I'm guessing it's somewhere between 4 and 7 episodes is my guess, below 8. Tom Hiddleston actually has a life outside of making Loki, so
you doing a sequel to The Night Manager?
I'm in. Give me a call, and I'll check it out. I said Little Drummer Girl's better, but if you want to have a John le Carre episode, I'm right here all the time, every day. All right, and so we're done with our updates. You also can look that online, but if you have any thoughts or anything about this, let us know. We'll give out all the info at the end of the episode, but we also love hearing feelings and thoughts if you want us to cover something else or something we're missing. So lastly, we're going to do our old What's on the Stack section. So what we've been reading, what we've been maybe watching a little. I don't want to say like every single thing I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of baseball. You know, we cover every baseball movie, baseball.
Each game, give us a rundown of each game.
I can give you every Padres game that I have to stay up till 1:30 in the morning because they have the longest baseball games in the entire universe. So I'm going to let Steve tell us what's on his stack.
I actually just read the first volume of The Department of Truth. It's another James Tynion book. I should know, but I forget who is the artist on it. But, we did Something's Killing the Children. So I was like, let me pick this one up. It is interesting, very conspiracy theory heavy. Imagine if you could very almost like Sandman-esque, like if you could like the collective will of humanity can will things into existence or keep them in existence or allow them, very American Gods as well, like that type of thing.
This is Martin Simmons I have here as the artist.
Martin Simmons. Thank you. And then
does this have any vibe of the Hickman stuff? Like it gives me that, like just from the cover, it has a very nightly
a little bit nightly
styles.
News. Yeah, a little bit nightly news-ish, that type of thing, for sure. And then the other one, another one I wanted to mention actually is a show. Since you mentioned shows we're watching, Infinity Train just came out with season 4. If you haven't seen this show yet and you aren't completely against watching like young adult type stuff, this is some of the best shit I've seen in terms of that. Very, very good storylines. Like the 3rd season is absolutely awesome. And they're short. They're like 12 minutes long each, and there's, 10 a season or something like that. So,
and what's that on? What is it?
It's Infinity Train, and it is on HBO Max. It actually, the 4th season just dropped, and now it's done unless somebody picks it back up. But,
and what is it, a manga or a thing, or just young adult, or
no? It was originally a Cartoon Network show.
Okay,
and they got dropped by Cartoon Network, picked up for one final season by HBO Max, and that's kind of it. But it's a show that like nobody watched, and it's a shame because it was really, really good, and now it's over.
Well, maybe I'll have to say that for your Overlooked series. I kind of made this pick this one out from your pile because it looked like, I don't know, Overlooked, but it's a newer thing and maybe not, right in the eye of things when we did the seeds. So I'm down to check it out. If you think you've heard my feelings on certain things. So if it's in the wheelhouse, I don't want to just sign up for things that I'm going to poop on, and I don't mind pooping. I don't mind doing a little triumph on everything, but I don't want to be Mr. Downer all the time.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm gonna
add it to the list. Add it to the list. I made a list, so you can add it to the list. Literally,
yeah, absolutely.
So, all right. So, what's on the stack for me? There's always too much on my stack, as per usual. And I'm going to only cover what I read because, of course, I got into a library recently, and that means I have way too much from that library. I read the Al Ewing. I thought you had recommended it, but the Al Ewing Immortal Hulk run, the first book or volume, 2 volumes.
Well, he's coming out with a new book, so I was talking about maybe checking that out when the first volume comes out. But yeah,
okay, gotcha. So the other book that he's writing, but this was actually really, really good, very gothic. I'd never been into so much horror, but I'm telling you, maybe it's the comics in me. We've obviously covered a bunch of stuff, and we've got one more in our final announcements of definitely on the horror side, or at least the gory side that I like. Immortal Hulk, Al Ewing, Scumbag, Volume 1. I did not enjoy that much. I think you like some Rick Remender stuff, but it's kind of a guy who's like a real drunkard who gets infused with some kind of, he thinks it's heroin, and he takes his blue drug, and he's like basically a superhero, but he can only be a superhero if he has true intentions, and he has this hot lady that he's with. Kind of has the vibe of that Did you ever read that? I think it's called the Inhumans or the Humans, the one where they're monkeys. They're like monkey. It's a monkey outlaw gang.
No.
It's a very like outlaw gang, like I don't say white trash, but like the dude, but like on steroids scenario. The dude from Big Lebowski. But not fun, not as funny. More of like a douchebag, which is the whole point. He's a scumbag, so he's like creepo. There's a lot of sex stuff. There's an orgy scene, so it's very R-rated for sure. But it's definitely on the more fun side. I'll probably give it another volume. I'm sure it'll get a chance. I read some of the Big Trouble in Little China adaptation that I heard was pretty good. I think that's from like Oni Press or one of the ones that does, or Dark Horse that does all the movie kind of reboots. And then I've been watching Mare of Easttown, which I love, is very much a hot, really gritty, really gritty detective story. So when I do my comic recommendations, you'll always hear things like that. But this is, in opposition to what we've been talking about, this is a pure unexpected. I think they do a really good job of beating expectations on that. So that's on our what's on the shelf ish and what's in our eyes, etc. So now we're going to do a little bit, give you guys an update of what we're going to do next. And we'll always do that. And we'll probably put the stuff up on our feeds and everything else. So you'll get a heads up anyway. But so on the next episode, we will be treated to my pick, which is yet another gothic mystery full of blood and villainy after I've complained about blood and overblood. This is the gothic Top Cows Postal from Matt Hawkins and Brian Hill. I believe Matt Hawkins is actually the CEO or the founder of Top Cows. So I think he came up with the idea, and it's like a co-written thing. And then Isaac Goodhart is the art. So our discussion will cover the first arc. I believe it's only about 4 issues or 4 issues and a 0, maybe, a little bonus. And just to give you a little taste, it's a story of a town that's basically off the map that is full of super villains, and they're allowed to, like villains, but they're only allowed to live there. They're not allowed to leave that. So it's all of a town of only villains, basically. And the mayor is a lady, and her son is, I'm not sure if they ever really say, but he's something wrong. He's autistic or Asperger-y, where he's on the same spectrum where he's like very focused and can't do things. He's very good at being a postal worker, but this is kind of the arc of his life or like of his journey when he kind of figures out that there's some shady shit going on in the town. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing Steve's thoughts on that. It was one of the recent books that I really plowed through and got really into. So
can't wait to read it, man.
Really good twists. And then we're gonna do for many people that I know, the long-awaited effort of when I finally try to sit down and watch Rick and Morty. And I'm going to say, let's say about season 1, I think there's about 8 to 10 episodes. That's what I'm going to try to do. I actually have read, I think, 6 volumes of Rick and Morty comics, and I've never watched the show. So I may be the only person in the world that enjoys reading comics of a show rather than the show that it's based on. So, either way, both of these sound like a real doozy to me. And if nothing else, I know from Rick and Morty, we'll get some laughs in somewhere. So any final thoughts? One more time for you, Steve.
No, man, just check out those books that we mentioned in our recommendations. And hopefully anybody else who read it liked The Seeds better than you did, Joe. But, but other than that, no, I think that's it.
Thanks again for listening to us blather on about comics on Bubbling Up. If you have any comments, questions, or thoughts on the show, please leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform because people love reading reviews. You can also email us questions, comments, more thoughts, nice things, gifts, gift cards to bubblinguppod@gmail.com, or you could find us on Instagram, same bubblinguppod with a G. Until next time, keep flipping those pages.
Yeah, it's the same music as at the beginning. Our buddy Chris Morgan did it. The intro's so nice we used it twice. What? You want show credits over here? Alright. I was your production manager, Steve Hermosi. Still am, I guess. And the other guy was the brains of the whole operation, Joe Soria. We want to thank you for tuning in, and we hope we see you on the next episode. Goodbye! Great timing.